Hello and welcome to the fourth of four meetings for the 2019 Capital Program Facilitation Committee. My name is David Hutchinson. I'm the Assistant Director for Capital and Asset Management. We're going to go around the room for some introductions.
Mike Gable, Director for the Department of Public Works.
Kevin Paulson, Director of OMB.
Peter McDevitt, Capital Budget Analyst.
Brendan Katikia, Senior Budget Analyst, OMB.
Karina Richt, Director of Department of Mobility and Infrastructure.
Whitney Finstrom, Senior Manager of Community Development, OMB.
Bill Urbanek, Pittsburgh City Council Budget Director.
So today it's going to be a great opportunity to kind of recap what we've accomplished in 2019. We're going to start off with a few pieces of information, just numbers-wise, how the program did. We're going to get into some highlights from department directors about what they accomplished in 2019, and then just give a quick update on what's going to be happening in early 2020. One of our biggest priorities when it comes to spending capital budgets is our CDBG dollars. We want to make sure that we're spending those in a timely fashion. There's actually a timeliness requirement from the Department of Housing and Urban Development that by the end of January, we can't carry more than 1.5 times our last allocation, and that includes program income. So this goes through some of the math. This year, the good news is that we're well underneath our required threshold by over $1.5 million. So this year, we did a pretty good job of spending CDBG dollars in a timely fashion. The good news, too, is the more we spend underneath that cap, the more it helps us for the next year. It's an annual limitation, so it's good if we can get down some more of the spending this year. It'll only help us for the next year. In terms of the capital program overall, this was a fairly even year compared to years prior. In terms of this chart, it's actually looking at, out of the entire budget, how much did we spend of that budget in that budget year. So the very last line correlates to our $96 million budget for 2019. Out of that, in this year, we spent $31 million, almost $32 million, resulting in about 33% of our program spent in the first year. As you can see, that's pretty consistent with what we've done in the past. 2018 is a bit of an anomaly because we had the $27 million that went towards the purchase of 412 Boulevard of the Allies. In a similar fashion, I wanted to kind of look at not just spending for that program within that program year, but also spending for the entire capital program itself, because we can spend older money as well. So as you see, we've gotten a little bit better at spending a larger portion of that program year spending in blue, and then also we've been playing catch up with some of our prior year funds. As time goes on and we spend more and more of our capital budget in that program year, the orange funds that are available to spend from prior years are going to keep shrinking. So we hope to see kind of a higher saturation number for the amount of money that we're spending in the program year. But until we spend down all of our old money, those funds are available as well. I didn't want that to be kind of the only thing that we were looking at, so I also checked out some of what OMB does in terms of turning around documents. I thought this was a decent proxy for how the program overall is moving. The two documents that our office processes a lot are contracts and letters of authorization, or LOAs. This was a little bit more uneven. It's not always a great correlation between spending or activity and contracts, because some contracts are $20 million, some contracts are $20,000, but at least it gives you a sense of the volume that we've been processing in OMB. We didn't really have LOAs in 2014, but as you can see, we've been able to use on-call contracts more effectively throughout the years, and we've been processing a lot more paperwork the past couple of years. So up next, we're going to hear from Director Gable from the Department of Public Works.
Right, so the Department of Public Works is charged with hundreds of 2019 capital budget deliverables. Following are some of the projects that the staff is very proud of. Some of them are completed and some are works in progress. The works in progress will certainly be some fabulous visuals when we do this again next year. So Whiteman Park in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood. It is a work in progress expected to be completed in this year, 2020. And it's converting a modular playground and other recreational amenities, including a ball field. But it's going to be very similar in assets, but it's going to incorporate a stormwater management feature, that will add a very natural feature to the park that you probably would find more in our larger regional parks than you would in a neighborhood park. And the park is under construction right now. Like I said, it started back in September, October of this year, 19, and we expect it to be completed in 2020. And it's going to be a $3.8 million project. Multiple funding sources, including a large contribution on the part of Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority. Magee Playground in the Greenfield neighborhood took an old playground, modular play structure, and updated it. That's the construction phase, and that's the new look on the equipment and the safety servicing. And the project was about $275,000. Next project is Paulson Spray Park, Paulson Park in the Lincoln Leamington Belmar neighborhood. It was an old, obsolete, closed pool location. So we converted it to a spray park. And it also involved a little further up a renovation of the play area, but the pictures here will just show the spray feature. And so with the use of drones, we give everybody a better visual of the park rather than at street level. So I like the aerial stuff. And you can see that's the spray park, the renovated bathhouse. And the 1% Art put the mural on the surface of the spray park. And the project cost was $1.3 million for that. Next project is the Shenley Park Ice Rink in the Squirrel Hill neighborhood. Actually, we are expecting to do a ribbon cutting on that location within the next couple weeks. Basically, it took an old, obsolete ice rink. It's got a new surface. It's got a new cooling system, new lights, multiple accesses for the public. There's going to be spectator seating, players' benches, scoring table for hockey teams. It's just a great improvement for that asset. And the project cost was about $1.7 million. And this is just to show the new surface. So as I said, we're going to open this up, hopefully on a ribbon cutting on January 17th. Homewood Park, also known as Stargell Field in the Homewood neighborhood. The park, the actual park, is in the upper portion of the picture there. The city acquired land that was once the Montesori school. We've now demoed the building, and this will allow for the expansion of completely of Homewood Park. We expect this is going to have multiple funding sources from we think from Major League Baseball and from a former NFL player that'll help us to build this facility that's going to be expected to be about $3.8 million. And this will be just a conceptual outline of what the space will be. So it'll be a dramatic improvement, enlargement into what is Homewood Park, but it will be a synthetic surface rather than a natural. And then it will be able to accommodate multiple sports, including the baseball that's played on there and the football, in addition to other sports. Next project is multiple projects in McKinley Park. This one is up at the Rec Center, Senior Center, up by Gearing and Amesbury Street, the upper level of McKinley Park. We renovated the basketball court outside of the Rec Center there. In addition to that, an artist, a local artist, did the color coding for that court surface. So that was an improvement for the basketball court. Has new basketball standards in addition to the color-coded surface there. Additionally, in McKinley Park, the upper picture shows a lot of work that's going on in that area, Michigan Street, Gearings and Amesbury. I think it's almost $1 million from funding from the NRPA and multiple other sources. In particular, this is just the historic steps that lead into the park on both ends of the park on the Eldora Street side also. Those steps are the WPA built back in 1939. So the recreation here on the lower picture is, this was actually done by our construction division, the DPW construction division. So they've recreated those steps to mirror what was done by the WPA Works Project Administration back in 1939. So dramatic improvement in that portion of the park, and more projects to come as a result of that. For the lower portion of McKinley Park on Bosman Street, there's two basketball courts that were in dire need of renovation. And that was completed back in 2019. So nice courts, new basketball standards, and nice color coding in addition to new lighting. So a lot of improvements going on in McKinley Park. And McKinley is in the Belts Hoover and Bon Air neighborhoods. Next project is Fineview Playground in the Fineview neighborhood. This is a playground renovation. This is, again, another work in progress. So again, we'll have some additional stuff on this come next year when we do this. But this project is in the neighborhood of $680,000. This is just the playground itself, but there are other recreational amenities here. There's basketball courts. There was an open court area that's all being repurposed. So the total project is in the neighborhood of $680,000, and it should be completed again very early in 2020. Next project was the Larmer Park basketball court off of Larmer Avenue in the Larmer neighborhood. This court has been renovated and now looks like that from the air. What isn't showing on here in the south end of the picture will be drinking fountain and spectator seating, but in principle the court is functional for its intended purpose and should serve the Larmer community very well. Another work in progress is Townsend Park. It's up off of Chartiers Avenue near the Thaddeus Stevens School. This was, again, a project that's a work in progress right now, but we expect it to be completed in early 2020. It's just showing some of the construction work going on. So we expect that project, again, to be completed in early 2020, and it's about $1,100,000. Next project was our DPW Division 5 garage. Was in need of a lot of structural and exterior repairs and renovations. This is in the Elliott neighborhood. So we installed new exterior siding, stainless steel interior panels. There were structural column repairs, interior and exterior lighting improvements, and we added a women's restroom. And that's sort of what the exterior looks like. It takes on a little different look, and the project was $490,000. Fire Station 8 in the East Liberty neighborhood is a work in progress also, but it's the cleaning and repointing of the brick in preparation for the removal of the tower. And the project cost is in the neighborhood of $730,000. This used to be the number 5 police station, and right next to it was the Fire Station 8. And the last project is Medic 10 in the Marshall Shadeland neighborhood. And that involves a roof replacement and the cleaning and repointing and replacement of faulty bricks on the whole structure. And this is a completed project, and it was a cost of $817,000. So again, there was a lot of projects we could have picked. I know we showed a lot of work in progress, but again, there will be some nice visuals for when we do this again next year, in addition to whatever is on our plate for 2020. Thank you very much.
While we get the presentation for Director Ricks together, I'm struck by a couple of things in that presentation from DPW. One is the great coordination with city planning on public art. I think it's going to be an exciting season for basketball in 2020, but also, sorry. Okay, I think this is, do you want to see if this is the right folder, Director Ricks?
It is the right folder. It can be sort by date modified. That would be the one that was most recent.
But also I thought it was interesting that the WPA's built steps at McKinley were built in 1939. I was recently reading back through our STEPS plan, and the average lifespan is 80 years. So we're pretty much right on the nose for those ones. And up next will be Director Ricks for Department of Mobility and Infrastructure.
Thanks, David. Thank you. So this is a longer presentation than maybe it needs to be, so I'll go somewhat quickly through it. Some of the information that we shared with City Council when we reviewed this in concert with the budget program. So just first of all, a reminder of what we interpret the mission of the Department of Mobility and Infrastructure to be, which is really that we provide the physical infrastructure and the mobility services that allow people to achieve economic mobility. So moving people to the goods and services, recreational facilities, educational facilities that they need to advance in their own personal lives. We're driven by 5 goals that are really relating to public safety and safety for all travelers, access to the essential needs of daily life, making our city enjoyable and healthy to travel in every element of that. That we're keeping costs low because transportation and mobility is the second and sometimes the first highest household cost in our city, and that our streets, that 1/5 of the city that this department is the steward of, really reflects the values and pride of our city, and that we're reflecting the great qualities of our city. The things that we have been able to accomplish in the last 12 months, in 2019, we were fortunate to pave over 60 miles of pavement. We did that in part with our own work, but also through coordination with the utilities that work in our streets, and replaced 1,800 curb ramps for ADA accessibility. We were able to make improvements to a number of concrete, brick, and blockstone streets. I won't go through them all here. Some of these were very large projects, like major restoration on Grant Street, which we hope to continue this year and next year, but also small repairs in a number of our streets with traditional materials on them. And again, this is a huge quality of life improvement for a lot of the neighbors. We do have a bridge repair program. We have over 160 long span bridges that the city is responsible for, and a vast number of short span bridges, those less than 20 feet in span. Some of the significant ones that we worked on in 2020, and some that will require additional work in that we worked on in 2019 that will require additional work in 2020 and 2021. The Larimer Bridge, which we saw some concrete falling from it, and some other kinds of immediate repairs that were necessary there. Forbes Avenue over Frick Park, the South Negley Street Bridge, which is a major reconstruction rehabilitation project that will go on over the course of the next several years. Lowry Street Bridge, which was an immediate remediation project, and now will advance into a rehabilitation project. West Carson Street Bridge, 828th Street Bridge, and the 2 Mission Street bridges, Mission Street East and Mission Street West, which we were able to put new curbs on, new sidewalks, and generally rehabilitate. In 2019, we invested $1.4 million in local money into the bridge program, and in 2020 that will increase to $2.4 million. This is over and above then several $1 million that come from federal aid programs and others. Major bridge investments that will continue are McFerrin Street Bridge, again the Lowry Street, 28th Street bridges that will move into the more substantial rehabilitation. McCardle Roadway Bridge, which will address the Spring and the California Street Bridge. We're advancing on 2 large-scale engineering design for 2 very large-scale projects. The Charles Anderson Bridge, which of course is an iconic bridge in the city, and the Swinburne Bridge, which carries Fraser Street over Junction Hollow and that portion of Shenley Park. So these 2 bridges are advancing in design now, and will go into construction probably still 2 years yet from where we are now. The West Ohio Street Bridge, at long last, 21 years, will begin construction on that bridge in this coming year. So that's a very important and historic rehabilitation that will go on in the North Side communities. We did a number of steps projects, both capital improvement just to repair those steps, as well as full reconstruction, such as here at Janilla Street in Middle Hill. Tremendous change for those steps. We'll continue this year working and advancing on another number of steps projects, including James Street steps, the Vista Street steps, Fraser Street steps, and others to really improve those critical public stairways. That we have many of them progressing in concert with the Art Commission, as in this set here, where we're working to maintain and restore those mosaic installations. We completed slide mitigation for some projects. Diana Street is one that we're very proud of, made a tremendous change from this slide that began in 2018. Now we're able to fully restore and reopen the street in 2019. A number of other investments were made, currently ongoing work on List Street, improvements on Ivy Glen, Parkwood Road and Eads Street. We've done some improvements on and we'll continue that. Forward Avenue and Commercial Street will go under construction in the very near future. Greenleaf Street, a segment in the upper portions of that. The Henderson Street, Summerseer, Fallowfield, Troy Hill, Crowley, Spray Park area are all slide mitigations that we'll undertake, have begun initial work on in 2019 and will undertake in 2020. Looking at some of our structural sidewalk issues and other structures in the public rights of way, in concert with DPW, we're able to make some profound changes in Mount Washington, in the sidewalks and the overlooks there, throughout the city, working on retaining walls and structures and installing guide rail and fencing. For flood and stormwater projects, we've begun work on Streets Run as the very first initial phase of improvements in that corridor. Also, again, in concert with DPW, made improvements to Sawmill Run and with PWSA with that project, continuing collaboration with PWSA and DPW for 4 Mile Run, flooding improvement, water management improvement for Red Oak and Hasten, Mooney Road, Gladstone Street, and Vodelli, among other locations. We've begun work on a number of sidewalk gaps, so improving critical sidewalk access to transit, access to community amenities. We've installed new sidewalk in both Homewood and the Hill District, and then in 2020 we'll be doing some more work in Hazelwood. In partnership with the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation, we've seen a huge transformation of Forbes Avenue in Oakland. Still some cleanup work necessary to do on that project, but by and large, a tremendously successful project that implemented new bike facilities, new streetscaping, upgraded all kinds of facilities, and made the corridor ready for the new bus rapid transit. The department installed new streets and street trees and a ribbon furnishing zone sidewalk improvements on East Carson Street. Later this year, we'll see the Pennsylvania Department of Transportation come in with a very large project to improve the street and intersections of East Carson Street. We've implemented the first phase of public realm improvements on Broadway Avenue and Beachview. So pedestrian safety improvements, operational improvements, that will be followed later on this year by public art and placemaking enhancements in concert with the Public Art Commission. We've begun construction now on the Wenzel-Carnahan intersection, again, a long design project to really implement more safety and operational improvements at this very important intersection, Banksville Road and Carnahan. Allegheny Circle, later on this year, will begin implementation for conversion of this one-way rotary to back to a traditional two-way operational street system with a bicycle cycle track in the street. So that will again make a tremendous change. This has been a long coordinated project with local communities there, with the private development interests, the many employers. So we're excited to see that transformational change finally happen in 2020. Smallman Street, again, a hugely transformative project in concert with reuse and rehabilitation of the old produce terminal building, making a tremendous change to a 5-block segment of this street that will add proper pedestrian accommodations, great placemaking opportunities, improved bicycle accommodation, and really play off the opportunities of the iconic church that's there and the retail opportunities along the street, and really be another great street in the Strip District. In coordination with the Port Authority of Allegheny County, we've been advancing the Bus Rapid Transit Project. This is a 3-branch bus improvement that connects from Squirrel Hill, Highland Park, and then on out to Wilkinsburg, to the Oakland community, and then as a rapid dedicated spine from Oakland to the Central Business District. In total, it's about a $200 million capital investment that will be implemented in the next few years. So continuing engineering design, engineering work, and general coordination for this project that affects 5th and Forbes Avenue through Oakland and Uptown and downtown. A lot of work progressed from our sign and paint shop, who are a small handful of folks who are doing tremendous work all across the city. They've striped over 400 miles of lane markings throughout the city, installed 3,500 waterborne crosswalk markings, 400 thermoplastic crosswalks, thanks to a new thermoplastic machine that we were able to use just this year, 2,500 stop bars, 2,000 signs, and 2,700 sign repairs that have gone on throughout the city. A number of traffic calming programs. This is just the 2nd year that we've had a city traffic calming program. It's proved to be in high demand from many communities across the city. So a listing of the number of different places where we've installed traffic calming. I'm obliged to remind folks that speed humps are not the only traffic calming tool that we have. There's a number of different tools, but we have installed a number of speed humps in many streets across the city this year. We've undertaken a number of safety and complete streets projects, among them the Broad Street Road Diet, Southside Slow Street, which provides a parallel bicycle and pedestrian connection just north of East Carson Street. The Chateau Street Road Diet, which will be implemented in the near future, have improved the business district crosswalks in all of our major business districts across the city, are implementing the Willow and Hatfield Slow Street in the Strip District Lawrenceville area in the Lawrenceville Neighborway. Working with communities on intersections and crossings, we've implemented a number of safety projects at Frankstown at Liberty, Millerton at 65, Penn at Sheridan, 5th and Bellafield, Woodruff and Merrimack, and Davidson at 40th, which have really improved pedestrian crossings, improved safety, and have been much lauded by those communities. We've done a tremendous amount of signal maintenance. We have about 660 signalized intersections across the city. So in the past year, we've retimed 88 of those 660 intersections. So that's something that provides for better pedestrian crossings, better flow of traffic in our system, turn movements and other improvements. So important to keep those timings up to date. We've implemented 7 signal revisions, so that's an equipment upgrade that's occurred at various intersections. Multiple improvements to the Washington Boulevard floodgates, as we've seen various events happen down in that area, and a number of service calls all across the city, knockdowns in response to crashes and other kinds of events that our folks are happy to head out and address. We've installed new signals or upgraded signals at 5th and Negley, Bigelow and Center, working on Center, Aiken and Liberty, working on Shady and Wilkins, implementing a number of signals throughout the CBD, and we'll be doing pedestrian signal improvements throughout the downtown. That work is just beginning. We've begun work on our Smart Spine network. This is a federally funded $26 million project to have a series of state-of-the-art signals running along major arterials of our city that can facilitate even traffic flow, advantage transit mobility, provide good accommodation for pedestrians and pedestrian crossings, and really provide that smart network that we need to become the city of the next century. Working on a number of streetlight improvements as we are adding streetlights to various corridors of the city, replacing them and upgrading streetlight fixtures. We launched a safe driving pledge This is part of our traffic calming program, where we're really engaging the public and being a partner with us in managing traffic speeds. In March of 2019, we released the mayor's executive order on autonomous vehicle testing. This is a first in the nation approach to really guiding and partnering with and directing the testing of autonomous vehicles, as we've seen throughout the city, and in working with community partners, bringing them in line with what we call the Pittsburgh principles, which are 10 principles for the kind of city that we want to preserve, even as we welcome some of these new technological advancements. Working on completion of our Bike Plus plan and implementation of a number of bicycle facilities throughout the city. We've seen tremendous increases in bicycle use, and now we need to provide those safe facilities that will allow all users to travel. We began earlier this year and continue now completion of a 50-year transportation vision plan. This is a comprehensive vision that will help us manage the infrastructure that we have, prepare for the preservation of rights-of-way and sites that we may need for future infrastructure, and really prepare for an investment, long-range investment portfolio. We've completed a number of mobility planning exercises in the Strip District, beginning work in the Hill District and in Oakland, finalizing our Complete Streets design guidelines and the bike plan. In 2020, we will begin the city's first Safe Routes to School program. This will work with a handful of individual schools, understanding what the behaviors of their students are, what the crossing behavior is, where we can make access to schools safer for these most vulnerable populations, and help with education and safe walking, safe travel in our public rights-of-way for our school-age children. At the end of this year and then through this year, really thinking about new mobility and what are we going to do with different types of mobility devices that we're seeing occur in other cities, so that Pittsburgh can be proactive, that we don't have to be reactive to these devices arriving in our city, but that we can welcome them as new means of travel and access to employment centers and amenities, but handle them in a safe way in our public streets. We continue to improve on our right-of-way permitting. We've issued over 22,000 permits, actually about 30,000 by the end of the year. We've generated more than $2.5 million in permit revenue through the management of the public space, and we are getting better about enforcement. Not that we want to tout that we've issued 60 violations. We'd like everyone to be compliant, but we are demanding more accountability and better compliance with our permitting regulations, and we need to do that for protection of our public assets. In 2020, permitting will go online following with our sister departments of PLI and zoning. DOMI will then be online, and that should facilitate a lot of our permitting processes and coordination and permit review. A number of large development projects. We're happy that Pittsburgh is a growing city, that we're seeing a number of new developments happening, and that requires reviews from both our engineering staff, our planning staff, and our traffic staff to make sure that that restoration of the right-of-way follows our standards, that we have good quality construction going on, that the traffic operations to support this new development are all in place, and that through the course of the actual development itself, we're maintaining safety on our streets. And I just want to really thank the staff that we have. We couldn't do this without, while we're a fairly small staff, they do a tremendous amount of work, really working in partnership with various organizations, neighbors, constituents, council, and others that really help us get our work done. So I've been able to accomplish a lot in 2019, looking forward to doing even more in 2020. So, thanks, David.
So we got quite a bit done in 2019 sorry about the mistake, it should be 2020. For the 2020 capital program, keep in mind we should have our PAYGO funds loaded pretty soon. In every one of these iterations, we will be emailing out to department leadership to make sure that they understand that the funds are available and ready to spend. Bond will probably be closing on that in mid-April. And then CDBG, unfortunately, we're at the mercy of the federal government, that's usually in the fall. So you can expect CDBG dollars available in the fall. In the meantime, we're going to be doing our CDBG 101 course again. It's just an hour and a half, 2 hours with project managers, fiscal admin staff to get kind of an overview of the process, but more importantly, functional information on how to make projects move. CDBG dollars come with a lot of freedom from the federal government, but also quite a few requirements. So we want to make sure from the CD team that we're giving you really good, high functional information that you can use to start your projects, including independent cost estimates and environmental reviews. So if you have any of those going on in the background for your 2020 projects already, feel free to reach out to our staff, including Whitney, to get those coordinated and approved, and then you'll be ready to hit the ground running. And then last year we tried it for the first time, and we're doing it again this year, but deliverable level accounting seems to help a lot. We're now kind of getting into some custom reporting with some of our internal staff to get them an exact list of the projects that they work on. We'd like to expand that out to the departments if that's something that's useful for department staff as well. Is there any questions or comments on 2019 or anything wondering about for 2020? All right. Thanks for a great year.